Nvidia stock is down roughly 3% as I am recording today's episode. The main reason is the White House did announce new regulations that are going to impact companies like Nvidia, but not just Nvidia. We're going to see through today's episode that there's a lot of companies in the tech space that are opposed to these regulations. On the bright side, it does seem like the market is hopeful that the upcoming administration, the Trump administration, is going to kind of end these regulations, as these regulations are not expected to take place until 120 days from now. But overall, it can still kind of drive some negative sentiment. And as we're going to see, a lot of big tech is pushing outside of this regulation or pushing against these regulations, as it is going to push a lot of future revenue, a future business away from American technology and most likely into Chinese and other competitive technology in the market right now. Now, as an investor of the semiconductor space, too long don't watch, I believe these regulations will be kind of taken out with the new administration. And again, I do believe most of the market believes this is true, because if not, Nvidia would be down a lot and a lot higher. So too long don't watch. That's the overall concept. But if you want to learn more about this, make sure to stay tuned for the rest of the episode. Make sure to hit the thumbs up. Make sure to hit the subscribe button. Check out the pinned comment for special offers at fool.com/Jose. Check out my free daily semiconductor newsletter, What the Chip Happened. And more importantly, check out my earnings ebook, which is about to start again with the Q4 earnings starting this week. There is a special price. The link is down below. So let's get started.
I want to thank the Motley Fool for sponsoring this video, and check out fool.com/Jose for the 10 best stocks to buy now. With that link, you get a promotional offer for the subscription service. Now, let's continue with today's episode.
All right, so we can see right now, Nvidia is down roughly 2.8% as I am recording, closer to 3%. It is kind of pulling back up. I believe the reason the stock is not down that much, and I'm going to say if the market was expecting these regulations to hold until the next administration, to the Trump administration, Nvidia and a lot of other semiconductor companies would have been down even more than they're at right now. So to me, this is telling me that the market is expecting these regulations to not go through. But at the end of the day, this is kind of a quick reminder that the semiconductor market, and we've actually talked about these regulations in previous episodes, as we've been hearing whiffs and rumors about it. So we have discussed that. And we mentioned that one of the biggest things for the semiconductor market is semiconductor technology at the end of the day goes into the most innovative products. So at the end of the day, this is the market that's most likely going to be regulated by any administration as needed for things like national security risk. So that has always been a risk. And throughout any administration, right, this is always a risk. Now, we have other companies also down. AMD is down roughly 0.6%. At the end of the day, we know that there's only one big player in the AI space right now, and that is Nvidia. And that's why Nvidia is taking the brunt, but it is kind of impacting other semiconductor players. To my surprise, Broadcom is actually up roughly 1.4%. They did kind of get an upgrade in price, it seems, by a few analysts. And maybe I want to say the market is misinterpreting this and saying that, hey, look, bad news for Nvidia is actually bad news for Broadcom. And I don't think that's actually necessarily true, because of the way this 200-page paper or White House regulations is written out. In theory, cloud server providers can only have certain amount of their GPU power in other countries, right? And that's going to delimit the need of Broadcom GPUs, ASIC solutions as well, right? So I think the market is misinterpreting this, that because we're going to see a decrease in NVIDIA GPUs internationally, you're going to see an increase in ASIC solutions. But again, it kind of falls within the same power. They're looking at computational power, not necessarily an individual product. So I don't think this is necessarily great news for Broadcom, even though in a top level overview, it might seem like that's the case. Now, you can go here to the fact sheet. They just released it at the White House Gov website on January 13th. Is about a 200-page paper that many companies are discussing. And here is just a quick overview. Right now, they mention no restrictions apply to chip sales to 18 key allies and partners. This is, again, 18 players is big, but it's not the whole world. And chip orders will, with collective computational power, right? So that's important, computational power. And that's why I mentioned this is not necessarily a specific product downgrade, like many think it's bad for Nvidia. I believe it's bad for any players that's providing chip solutions to big tech all around the world. And there's so much in here. Again, it's 200 pages that there have been so many companies that have come out to kind of battle against it. The first and most important is going to be Nvidia. And Nvidia released this statement on the Biden's administration misguided AI diffusion rule. So the big thing that we're going to see is right now AI technology is really being led by the United States companies, right? By Nvidia, by OpenAI, by Microsoft, by Amazon, by Google, right? So it is a top of the line product made here in the United States. It's not a physical product, right? But this kind of product that is made here in the United States pushes other countries to invest in United States technology because it allows them to really use those kinds of products, right? So let's say you are in other country, you're going to want to build maybe a Microsoft data center, right? So that's improving or increasing the revenue of a US based company because Microsoft will be able to run OpenAI and all these other models. Now, if you start to restrict these other countries with US technology, Microsoft, in theory, won't be able to build as many data centers in those selected countries. But what country would want to be restricted, right? What other player would want to be restricted? So, what the market is saying that if things like this come true, other countries are not going to want to invest in US technology. Instead, they're going to want to go invest in Chinese technology, for example, and build up these massive data centers where they don't have these regulations and where they have some full control of their AI future, right? So that's the big issue. It's that with these limitations, it's going to say, because I'm regulated in this technology from the United States, I might as well just start my initial investments in some other countries in technology instead. And the reason that is very important is because this technology, for example, data centers and this infrastructure, at the end of the day, is the infrastructure of the cloud market. It's the infrastructure of the software market. It's the infrastructure of a lot of different technologies. So you would want that infrastructure to be built on United States technology, again, to benefit United States companies. And it's not just the chip makers, like I mentioned, right? It's also the cloud space as well. So here, that's why I highlighted some of the points that NVIDIA made. They mentioned that built on American technology, the adoption of AI around the world fuels growth and opportunities for industries at home and abroad. The Biden administration now seeks to restrict access to mainstream computing applications with its unprecedented and misguided AI diffusion rule, which threatens to derail innovation and economic growth worldwide. In its last day, the Biden administration seeks to undermine America's leadership with the 200 plus page regulatory morass drafted in secret without proper legislative review. While cloaked in the misguide of an anti-China measures, and right, I do believe, and many countries and many companies actually believe that there has to be some restrictions to some of our national security reasons. So countries like China, so countries like Russia, but they have to be smart. And this overall concept here, it seems to be misguided as kind of an anti-China measure. These rules will do nothing to enhance US security. The new rules would control technology worldwide, including technology that is already widely available in mainstream gaming PCs and consumer hardware, rather than mitigate any threat. The new Biden's rules would only weaken America's global competitiveness, undermining the innovation that kept the US ahead. Although the rule is not enforceable for 120 days, it's already undercutting US interests. Like I mentioned, this is countries are going to start thinking, hey, look, if this is such a volatile space, right? If investing in US technology is so volatile because we're going to continue to get hit with regulations, why should we as a country invest in that technology when we can invest in some other country's technology? And that's what they're talking about. It's already cutting US interest. I believe, like I mentioned, I think the upcoming Biden Trump administration is going to end this because we've seen that a lot of the big tech CEOs, CEOs from Microsoft, CEOs from Meta, CEOs like Elon Musk are talking to the Trump administration. And all those CEOs are going to be against these regulations. And I believe this is going to change pretty quickly. So, this is why the stock market isn't really rising in too much negativity, and Nvidia is sitting at $132, even though it could be a nice buying opportunity if you are very much bullish in the overall stock. Now, Oracle, a big kind of AI cloud player right now, also kind of made a blog, and they mentioned the following. They mentioned that what Congress accomplished has been really well with the CHIPS Act. The Biden administration is going to take away with this diffusion framework because it's going to cut the global chip market for the United States firms by 80% and hand it over to the Chinese market instead. So again, it seems like the overall administration is really the overall tech market is not happy with this, especially not only if you're a chip maker, but if you are a cloud provider or if you're helping build that infrastructure in the digital world. Oracle mentions that in a single confusion action, the Bureau of Industry and Security retroactively regulates global cloud GPU deployment, shrinks the global market for US cloud and chip suppliers, establishes volumes restrictions, tells 20 countries they can be trusted only if they agree to the new unilateral imposed terms, including certification and semi-annual reporting requirements, and likely pushes the rest of the world to Chinese technology, which the Chinese market will be only happy to leverage to catch up with the United States. Now, a few weeks ago, and I've actually talked about this blog a lot of times, is Microsoft announced that finally the United States is in a strong position to win the essential race with China by advancing international adoption of American AI. American products are more trusted than Chinese counterparts, and our private sector is unmatched in its ability to invest in infrastructure around the world. With the balance and common sense approach to export control policy, the United States can solidify the diplomatic relations that will be critical to global AI adoption. So, like I mentioned, it seems like this is going to be more negative news than just to chip makers. It could impact the overall cloud space. It could impact the overall tech market if it goes through. So, right now, it seems like the main eyes are on Nvidia, but many companies can be impacted. Again, it does seem, because the market is only down roughly 2.6% for Nvidia, that the market expects these regulations to not go through, but it does create that uncertainty and that volatility for other countries, right? If you are in another country and you look at this, you're going to say, hey, look, maybe the Trump administration might cancel this, but what happens when the new administration comes in? Are we going to have to fight for this volatility of regulations again? And that again can push on interest for the United States technology. Pretty interesting to hear the thoughts of other CEOs and other big companies. I'm definitely going to keep a closer eye on this, but at the moment, I am still very much bullish in semiconductor, in AI innovation, and US technology. So let me know what are your thoughts in the comments below. Take care, have a good day, and see you all next time.